Welcome to today's explainer. We're jumping right in today because we are unpacking a fascinating text that fundamentally redefines a word we hear literally all the time. And that word is globalization. But, we aren't talking about supply chains or international trade here. The source material we're exploring today actually takes us on this incredibly paradigm-shifting journey into the true cosmic scale of what it calls the globalization of prophetic mercy. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this, so let's get started.
So, what does the true meaning of globalization actually mean to you? For most of us, right, it brings to mind modern economics, the internet, maybe political borders. But the author of our source text challenges us to completely reconsider this preconceived notion. They argue that true globalization extends way, way beyond just human interaction on a planetary scale.
The text sets up this brilliant contrast. On one side, you have modern globalization, which, let's be honest, is often characterized by the control, subjugation, and exploitation of resources. But then, on the other side, you have the Islamic concept of globalization, and this is presented as a universal connection. It's the spiritual peace and an unbroken thread of mercy that encompasses humans, the unseen, animals, plants, and even inanimate objects. It's just a completely different framework for looking at our entire relationship with the universe.
Section 1. The Globalization of Prophetic Mercy.
To really grasp this framework, the author points us to a foundational Quranic verse which states, "He was sent as a mercy to the worlds." Now, the author emphasizes that this specific wording is absolutely crucial. It proves his mercy wasn't limited to just a specific tribe or a specific era, or honestly even just humanity. The plural use of the word worlds fundamentally extends this compassion to the entire universe and literally everything in it.
Moving on to Section 2, Mercy Encompassing Plants and Animals.
The text highlights this deeply moving historical anecdote to really illustrate this point. Picture this. The prophet used to lean on a specific, inanimate palm trunk while giving his sermons. Eventually, a proper pulpit was built, so he moved to that instead. Well, according to the narrative, the congregation suddenly heard that original palm trunk literally weeping. It sounded like a distressed camel yearning for the connection it had just lost. And the prophet, showing this profound empathy for even the inanimate, stepped down from his new pulpit to tenderly comfort the trunk until it finally calmed down.
And this mercy extended powerfully to the animal kingdom too. We're talking about specific animal rights established centuries, literally centuries, before any modern welfare movements existed. He instituted strict prohibitions. For example, you couldn't burden an animal beyond its physical capacity. You absolutely couldn't use live animals for target practice. There was a strict obligation to make sure they were properly fed and watered, and a total, outright ban on burning or mutilating them for amusement. He just had this incredibly deep empathy for the voiceless.
So what did this actually look like in practice? The source narrates this incredible event where an exhausted, weeping camel actually walked right up to the prophet. The animal essentially recognized him as a source of justice. The prophet immediately turned to the camel's owner and stated that the animal had actually complained to him about being starved and overworked. He demanded that the owner fear God in how he treated the creature.
Okay, Section 3, Mercy in Legislations.
Then number 5. The text points to the famous event of the night journey, where the daily prayers were actually initially prescribed as 50. 50! But through the prophet's active intercession and negotiation, he asked for that burden to be lightened until it was reduced to just 5 daily prayers. He was constantly, always looking out for the ease and the well-being of his followers.
And we see this again with religious practice during the month of Ramadan. The prophet led this special evening prayers known as Tarawih for a few nights, but then he intentionally just stayed home. Why? Well, the text explains he actively avoided making things too difficult. He was acting as this protective buffer, purely out of fear that if he kept leading them night after night, it would be viewed as a mandatory, heavy obligation for the people.
Which brings us to Section 4, Mercy towards People and Wrongdoers.
According to the source, his emotional intelligence in society was just completely unmatched. He openly showed affection to children, which, by the way, was actually quite shocking to some of the rougher cultural norms of that time. The text notes that if he was leading a long congregational prayer and heard a baby cry in the back, he would immediately shorten the prayer. Think about that. He prioritized a mother's peace of mind and a child's comfort over lengthy communal worship.
It's also absolutely fascinating to see how he handled wrongdoers. The text shares this famous and honestly pretty shocking anecdote of a Bedouin man who walked right into the sacred mosque and began to urinate. The companions were obviously furious. They rushed to stop him, but the prophet told them, "Do not interrupt him."
He literally let the man finish so he wouldn't be physically harmed by stopping suddenly, and then, only after, gently and calmly educated him about the sanctity of the space. Now, the author draws a really sharp, thought-provoking contrast here. On one side, you have the prophet's incredibly dignified, gentle handling of a literal desecration of a sacred space. And then, on the other side, the text points out our modern tendency for extreme outrage, cancel culture, and severe anger over minor inconveniences, simple mistakes, or, someone just spilling a cup of coffee. It really asks us to step back and reflect on our own daily reactions.
Finally, Section 5, Profound Compassion for the Ummah.
So the crucial point the author highlights here is this breathtaking sacrifice. The theological premise is that every prophet is granted one guaranteed, absolutely answered prayer in this world. And while others use theirs during their lifetimes, the Prophet Muhammad chose to forego a guaranteed worldly wish. He kept his hidden. He saved it to use as an intercession for his followers during their darkest, most desperate moment on the Day of Judgment.
The text describes this incredibly profound moment where the prophet actually wept, repeating the words, my ummah, my nation, my people. He wasn't crying for himself, right? He was crying purely out of fear for his followers. And according to the source, this resulted in a divine promise from God stating, we will please you regarding your ummah and not grieve you, securing ultimate comfort and salvation. This explainer wraps up with a really lingering question. If he cried out of such monumental mercy for us, securing our rights, easing our burdens, and saving his single greatest prayer for us, well, shouldn't we have mercy on ourselves? It's a really powerful provocation to reflect on whether we are living up to this framework of cosmic compassion in our own lives today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope it gave you a brilliant new structured perspective on the material. Keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.